Hey everybody, it's Atheist for the Cause here with a special report about the elections coming up. And Donald Trump has actually been tweeting about them, so let's take a look. Says, the Dems want to stop tax cuts, good health care, and border security. Their Obamacare is dead with 100% increases in premiums. Vote now for Karen, what is a Handel? Yeah, Karen Handel. So, if we take a look at the polls here, and I know a lot of you don't like polls, and a lot of you have, you saw what happened with the polls with Trump, and they were completely wrong. But I'd still like to point out that, I really believe strongly in polls. I think they're excellent. The reason the polls were wrong with the Trump and with Brexit is because there was a strategy to pay for polls and slant them purposefully. And that's why people should be upset, because the pollsters were being unethical and literally trying to sway the elections by being bought by candidates. And it's not uncommon for candidates to buy polls, but the amount that they slanted them, they weren't even close to the truth, And that was really unfortunate. And the same thing happened in Brexit. But guess what? The slanting didn't work, did it? So what have we had? In France, the elections were almost identically, they were almost exactly right. And Marine Le Pen made it through to the runoff. And then she got destroyed like the polls said she would. And people didn't want to believe the polls then either. What about the recent UK elections? It looked like people were thinking, me included, that May would do better than the polls said. And guess what? The polls were dead on. I mean, it was amazing how close YouGov got. So the polls have really come around, and I think they've always been good. It's just that the strategy of buying polls seems to be less effective, and candidates are going away from it now. That's my opinion. So if we take a look at this is a dead heat. You see a 3.5 and a 4.2 margin of error. So Handel is the Republican and Ossoff is the Democrat. So overall, the aggregation of all of these is Ossoff is up 2.6%. But it seems that Handel is actually making a comeback. If I click this, then you see here, if you compare WSB TV landmark here, Ossoff was up 3, now he's only up 2. And then let's see, Fox 5 Atlanta Opinion Savvy, he's up 1, Ossoff is, and he was up 2 the last time they did it. And let's see if there's any other ones. I think there was one other one. The WXIA TV survey, or TV and then Survey USA, they're tied. And the last time they did them, Ossoff was up 7. So it really looks like Handel's coming back. The Republican is coming back. You see the margin of errors. All of these polls, with the exception of this one, and this one's really close, are all within the margin of error. So, and then you have this one is this Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They only did 1, and it's it's an outlier. So, and that was from a couple weeks ago. If you can see, they did it from 6.5 to 6.8 instead of these are done just a couple days ago. So, because it's now the 19th, and these were done on the 15th. So as you can see, if they were closing by a percentage and got within 2%, 1%, 3% tie within the last couple of days, how could they have closed since then? You know, maybe they caught up another % or two since then. So this is really a dead heat. And with Trump getting on board to help out Handel, and he's doing robocalls and stuff like that. He recorded a robocall. It could give her that little nudge she needs. And it could remind Trump supporters that, you know, get out and vote for your Republican candidate if you want to help Trump. So there's that aspect. But Georgia, I wanted to talk about like how Georgia is leaning more and more blue. And this should really worry Republicans because it's worth quite a few electoral votes. And how, you know, this seat is a Georgia seat. I'll scroll up. It's the Georgia 6th District. And this is the special election from Tom Price being nominated and selected into the Trump administration. And so if you look at last election, if you remember, there was Hillary Clinton's camp was saying that they could potentially flip Georgia, and people were kind of laughing. Well, they can't. I think it came a lot closer than people expected, and she did come within about 5%. Now it didn't flip, but it seems that she was within striking distance. There was a reason, you know, for her to, when she was saying that this was actually a toss-up state, that actually wasn't wrong. Like, if you end up within 5%, it's kind of hard to say that you never had a chance. So maybe you could say it was lean Republican, but I mean, I really don't have a problem going back and looking on it. Hillary Clinton got a lot wrong. I'm not going to nitpick her on Georgia, where she actually came pretty close. And as you can see, the Senate went for the Republican, and the House is all mainly Republican, except for 3 seats. And the state is mainly Republican, except for 3 seats. So it is a very Republican state, but Democrats are starting to come within striking distance. And it's got 16 electoral votes, but if we look at the history here, it shows that in 2016, this is presidential elections, it was about 5% difference. In 2012, it was about 8% difference. 2008 was about 5% again. 2004, though, you can see this is where Republicans really dominated, and it was around 13%. And 2000 was around 11%, excuse me. So, as you could tell, you know, 11, 13, 5, 7, 5, like, is definitely, that spread is definitely getting closer. And I think there were, nope, that's it for here. If we look on here, I gotta scroll up a little bit. You can see the spreads for the president here. Election results was Bush was 68 to Gore 32%. Bush 70% to Kerry 29%. McCain 62%. Obama 37%. Romney 61%. Obama 38%. Trump 48%. Clinton 47%. And actually, that doesn't seem right, does it? So just forget that, because that doesn't seem right. I think those statistics are wrong. But then if we go down to what I really wanted to show you on here is Georgia's 6th congressional district election. That's where we're talking. Oh, yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry. This is right. So this is the presidential election for this district. And it shows you so the widespread among Republicans in every year except for this year, which was a 1% spread. So it does make sense that this district would be up for grabs now because they didn't support Trump that strongly. Because obviously some districts within even red states are going to be heavy blue, but this is actually like this specific district is more Republican than the rest of the state. That's the point there. If we go to the 2002, the actual congressional district elections, it says Johnny Isakson, the Republican, versus Jeff Weisberger, the Democrat. The Republican won 80% to 20%. Wasn't even close. And that's pretty recent, 2002. You go to 2004, Tom Price ran, and so he got all the votes. Go to 2006, Tom Price ran again. He had some competition this time, but it wasn't close. 72 to 27% or 28%. Then Tom Price runs again, and he faces Bill Jones, who it turns it from a 68 to 32% with rounding. In 2010, Tom Price runs again against Sean Greenberg, who was actually, he didn't have competition, but Sean Greenberg was written in. And so Tom Price got 99.91% of the vote. Tom Price won against Jeff Kazanow, 65 to 35% in 2012. So these are huge spreads. 2014, 66 to 34%. Tom Price beat the Democrat. So these are huge spreads. It really hasn't been close in a long time. 2016, just last year, 62% to 38%. Tom Price beat the Democrat. So a lot of this is Tom Price just being a good candidate, but then a lot of it is this district having been more Republican historically. And you can see here we have the special election results from the first round, and John Ossoff, the Democrat, actually got 48.1% of the vote. Had he gotten 50% plus one, he would have actually won the election right there. And it almost happened with all of these candidates running. That's amazing. And he came up that 1.9% short, and as you can see, all these Republicans ran and got a lot more support. So if they all consolidate, they could actually pass the Democrat. But to consolidate this many candidates, is tough because a lot of these people, their candidate didn't win. Think about how a lot of Bernie Sanders people didn't consolidate around Hillary Clinton. So what you end up with is a very, very close race. And it is legitimately up for grabs. I completely buy these polls. I think these polls are right on. Except for this one's probably a little outdated, but when we'll just have to wait and see. There's a little Democrat lean here, but at the same time, the trend is towards the Republican, and it's just a matter of, does the Republican have enough time to pull this off? The election is tomorrow, and I'm going to say, after saying how much I believe in the polls and stuff, I'm going to stick my neck out there in a little bit and predict that I'm going to predict that Handel wins it, the Republican. I just don't think this is a big enough number to hold, and I think a lot of times the Democrats don't come out quite as well as the Republicans. The Democrats depend on, a lot of younger people. They depend on a lot of poorer people. These are both demographics that come out to a less extent, not only for the presidential elections, but also the non-presidential elections. And it's a lot different when the president's not actually running, because it's nothing to vote for a district seat, when you're also voting for the president, and the presidential election got you out. But when you're going just for this, that takes a lot more commitment. Because most people just see the presidential election as like a big deal, and people want to vote just to say they voted and things like that, for the leader of their country. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important the local seats are and the state seats, but and like even the House and Senate seats, they're extremely important as well. So I think the Republicans will turn out better than the Democrats, and with the trend going towards the Republicans anyway, I think and hope, maybe it's my bias getting in the way, but I think and hope that Handel wins it. And again, I'm actually not a Republican, but I really like Trump, and I basically want Republicans to get in like crazy to help Trump get, what he wants to get passed, because Trump has a good idea of what the average American is dealing with. He knows the lack of manufacturing jobs, for instance, hurts the country stability. He knows that it hurts the makeup of the country, where it hurts the middle class. Those are like manufacturing jobs are low education, yet pretty high pay for what you have to do. So it's one of those where if you don't, go through and graduate college, you can still get a pretty good paying job. And that's why manufacturing jobs are so important. That's why construction jobs and things like that are so important, because you can live pretty well off those kinds of jobs. But you can't live well off a fast food job. Living well off a retail job can be difficult. So, and when I say live well, I just mean earn enough to basically have a living wage. And, you can support families off construction and manufacturing jobs and things like that. But, and Trump has an idea of, the problems with the establishment, the problems with health care under Obamacare, and doesn't mean he has all the right answers on health care. That's yet to be seen, but at least he understands some of these problems where a lot of middle-class people can't go or have a really tough time going to the doctor because their premiums and copays are so high and deductibles are so high, yet the poor can go because they're paying almost nothing. And it's not right when the poor can afford to go to the doctor on the middle class's wallet, and the middle class can't go for themselves and for their own kids. I find that to be extremely unethical. So we need to get Trump's Republican friends in office. Someone who will work with them at least to some extent. And Handel seems to be that person. She's not really a Trumper. My understanding is she's not real. She's more of a true conservative than than pro-Trump, but she'll still be far better than a Democrat at this point. The Democratic Party has lost its mind, and the only chance to revive the Democratic Party in a way where it's not crazy is we have to kill it off first. Hypothetic or hyperbolically kill. We need to vote all the Republicans in and all of the Democrats out. And when the Democrats realize that their mass immigration desires and, you know, their other crazy ideas with globalism and these trade deals like TPP and even the Paris Climate Accord, which turned out to be terrible, where we're paying hundreds of millions of dollars for a promise. And even if all the countries hit all of their targets, the globe would only cool by like 0.2 degrees. I mean, that whole thing was a scam. And people realized it after Trump made it a huge issue. So here we are. Hopefully Handel wins. It's a dead heat. Either the only thing I'll be surprised about is if it's a blowout. If it's Handel or Ossoff winning slightly either way, then that'll show these polls were about right. So I'll talk to you guys later. And I don't have the information right now, but there is an election going on in Virginia too, so keep an eye on that one. But this one is Georgia's 6th district runoff election if you want to keep an eye on it. Bye, guys.